right.
Okay.
Well, before I pass it over to Gordon, I just want to mention that through PROBUS Global, we have a lot of opportunities to hear different presentations around the world. And one just came in with one of our guests today, Stuart Rennie from Fife, has advised that you're able to attend any of their meetings. Actually, the meeting was earlier this morning, the first one, and that was on the history around Fife. So those are available for anybody. And now going to Who Am I Today? Gordon, we sent out your bio to everybody previously, so I'd only be repeating myself. Thank you for joining us, and go for it. Thank you.
Now, have I got a share screen there? Is everybody happy?
Everybody's happy.
Okay then, so let's go then. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be talking to you from Newmarket, a wee village in the east coast of Scotland. Mad and I moved here when I retired in 2005, after what seems to be a lifetime of being somewhere else. It just happened to be that my place of work was never on my doorstep. The more I think about it, the companies I work for should have paid out 2 wages, one for my work and the other to my missus for her years of backing me up. A wee quick look at the place to see why we moved to Newmarket. The air is as pure as can be. The seafood is to die for. I'll just get rid of this though. There you go. And just like Newmarket, we've got a church with a clock tower that looks as if it should dong on the hour, but it doesn't. We like it quiet around here. The Newmarket and Islington Clubhouse, that should go. Okay, the Newmarket and Islington Clubhouse is shaped like a seabird on the wing. The design represents the Arctic terns that fly south to nest here in the springtime. The golf course itself is absolutely stunning, with the first time 9 overlooking the sea and the second pure links that follow the river's edge. The Islington River Estuary teems with flocks of geese and eider, but just off the coast is the Buchan Deep, which is the source of food for a 3,000 strong seal colony and passing whales. That's a humpback whale gulping fish. They hang around for 2 to 6 weeks in the summer, stocking up from the Buchan Deep. Now, heading up the food chain, we get killer whales that drop in occasionally on their way up north to the Atlantic Ocean. Great for us locals, but somehow I don't think they're a welcome sight for the seals. I spent many an hour on the beach with my 2 wee Scotty dogs, but after 11 years of absolute pleasure, sadly, they are no longer with us. On Who Am I? Well, we all are our parents, whether we like it or not. My father was an old man, as they called the skipper in the wee coastal vessels that carried cargo, everything to everywhere, covering the Shetland Islands, down the coasts of Europe, and all places in between. I was 7 years old when I got my first taste of the sea. We were 3 brothers, and each year one of us would sign in a ship for 6 weeks of the school holidays. Odd, I never knew he had a uniform till I found his photograph after he died. I was more used to seeing him in his working gear. Odd, I also never knew he spent 4 years in the trenches in the First World War, because he never ever talked about it. Wanderlust in music. My mother is where the music comes from. Before she married, she played piano for the silent movies and trained as an opera singer, gave it all up to have us. We were the only family with a diva that sang arias at the kitchen sink. 2 miles down the road, she could call you back home to get your dinner. 1947, and that's me and Ma signed in the SS Sojourner and sitting on a Belgian beach. Joke was, they bought me the spade and told me to go and look for unexploded bombs. Teenage years started with skiffle and trad jazz, so I saved up and bought a banjo. Beating my banjo was an absolute obsession, and we formed a band. Trumpet, trombone, clarinet, bass and drums with me chugging fit to bust. A year we practiced before we got our first job. Unfortunately, on the first toot of the first tune, "Oh When the Saints," then the trumpet player fainted and fell off the stage, never to toot ever again. So just me and the bass player teamed up and played the local clubs as rock and roll arrived on the scene. 1950s was a great time to be a teenager, and I hit it just right. The shipyards were crying out for apprentices, and we had the money to buy the best gear to attract the girls. The girls were not too badly dressed either, and that's when I first met Marda. Now the apprenticeship is over, and it's time to go down to the sea in ships. 1962 to sail with Benline to the Far East for 13 years. I bought a guitar with a stalk as broad as a builder's bum and took it with me everywhere. The crew that sings together, works together, and always made for a happy ship. The girl who was just a friend as teenagers became suddenly something else as I loafed about in leave. Qualifications came quick and we married in 1969. Me, a brand new second engineer, newly married Marda, came with me on a trip around the world. Excuse me, Suez was shut, so we went out via the Panama Canal and came back round the Cape of Good Hope. Ended up as chief engineer in the chemical tankers, but chemicals were not for me, both for being highly explosive and they fairly screwed up my asthma. We stayed in Holland for a year, supervised the building of a new ship, hung around with the students for the Groningen University of Music, commonly known as the Dutch Swing College. We finished by launching the ship sideways into a puddle. Happy Times with Benline I made into a book, along with 18 songs I wrote and recorded in order to keep the party going. We had Gillian, our darling daughter, in 1970. True to form, she has her own PR company and works in the music business. She took the tape and made it digital as a present for me when I retired in 2005. Again, music in Wanderlust. She left home when she was 17 and has lived in London ever since. We meet up on Father's Day, no matter what. She has travelled the world as PR with various bands. I wonder where she got that from. Now, this is where the fish comes to flesh as Benline went into the drilling industry. Seems we were good at building stuff, so off to Finland to build a rig in the winter time. The temperature reached -40 and we dug it out of the ice in the spring to go drilling in the North Sea. 1979, I trained in USA as a subsea engineer who specialises in blowout prevention equipment that sits in the seabed. Then I spent the next 25 years running around the world because they kept me in the end of a phone as subsea superintendent looking after 6 offshore drilling rigs. North Sea was just a quick jump in a helicopter, but a dangerous place to be. A bit of border with big waves. One time I was working in the sail deck when a monster tsunami came along and ripped the rigs off its moorings. Now, off Sarawak, they had a blowout, which kept me busy for 6 months. I couldn't hear them speak on the phone because the roar of the wells spouting hot rocks hundreds of feet up into the air, raining boiling mud down and running men running with nowhere to run. India, the seabed decided to take off along with all 350 tons of subsea equipment, which just disappeared into the deep. New Zealand, earthquakes were a shaky issue and shook me out of my bed with only a 12,000-mile trip to get there. China, my luck ran out and I took a header the height of a 3-story building when I fell off a bridge crane. First 40 feet, no problem. Last 6 inches, not so good. Broke a few bits, ended up in hospital in Hong Kong until Humpty here got put back together again. 3 years off Office Mountain in Copenhagen, Azerbaijan, to live and work on another new build before finally calling it a day. Retired in 2005 to write my book about the Benline. So ended a career that looks like a catalogue of disasters that was actually a catalogue of success. Normal drilling I was never involved in. New builds, you needed to get it right. Disasters, we always fixed it in the end, and they all got back drilling as if nothing had ever happened. Are you losing hope in climate change? Well, those who have messed with Mother Earth can fix it. Yes, we can. Now, in conclusion, who am I to remind you of Canada's connections with Scotland if Scotland is foreign to you? Caledonia is calling you to the best place there's ever been, and you'll be made very welcome, especially at our house. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your kind attention. Thank you, Richard, Sonny and Steve, for welcoming me into your company, and thanks to the members of the Newmarket PROBUS for making this meeting an experience to remember. That's it, guys.